Hello, friends and listeners, party people. Welcome back to an episode of Party XP. I'm your host, Lakan, and joining me once again is Jeff. Say hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
How you doing, my guy?
I'm getting my ass kicked by allergies still, so just if I sound nasally, and I will, just ignore it.
You ever do like the drip? What's it called? The neti pot? What do they call it?
Yeah, I just hate breaking all that out.
Yeah,
and everything. Like, it's just annoying.
I've done the what is it, like the Arm & Hammer like saline spray?
Yeah,
which is
I have that.
Kind of the same thing, right? It just feels disgusting, obviously, when you do it, right?
Right, especially when all the mucus and stuff comes out.
Yeah, sorry to everybody who's grossing everybody out in the beginning of the episode. But yeah, I mean, like, luckily for me, I've gotten kind of past the worst of my spring allergies. Everything's kind of already bloomed near me. Like the yellow stringies is the thing that fucks me up. You know, I'm talking about, like, I don't even know what tree that comes from, but those are the ones that, like, I see those, my car is yellow, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, this is like the bad part now, you know what I mean? And for the most part, that's all kind of gone in town. So I'm pretty okay. I still have to keep the eye drops on me, but you know, we're almost there. We're almost out of here. I mean, we're getting some good weather at least now, though, right?
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, so none of the allergy stuff affects me. It's just dust, which sucks.
Oh,
so now
really?
I have to keep. Yeah, but now I have to clean the house every day.
Do you ever get one of those, like, air purifiers?
I do. It's in the bedroom.
Okay.
Because I really need it in the bedroom more than I need it in the house, so.
Maybe grab another one then, you know?
I'm about to.
Because, like, we have, like, one of those, like, we have one of the cool Dyson ones, and then we have one of the other more boring ones, but both are just, like, in the living room, especially, like, now during, you know, like, allergy season. We have them just running, you know, day in, day out kind of thing. I really should get one for my own room, too, just to, you know, so I'm not as terrible of a mouth breather when I'm sleeping.
Huh.
I'd probably get a better night's sleep, actually.
Yeah. I probably should do that.
Yeah, one more wouldn't hurt. You can probably find one on deal or something. But yeah, pretty standard on my end as well, too, over here, except for, you know, again, just getting past this last bit of allergies. Trying to enjoy whatever I can of the sunlight since I'm still on night shift. This week, we are going to go ahead and back into some regular game episodes. Jeff, sorry I'm dragging you right back down to the roguelike pit, okay?
Welcome to Roguelike XP.
There
I'm
you go.
Jeff. Stuck in a hell of my own creation.
Hey! I think you'll genuinely like this one because I know you like the power fantasy. So, have you ever heard of Risk of Rain?
Yeah, I own the first one. I thought it was all right. I thought it was fun.
Okay, so I really enjoyed Risk of Rain original. The only reason why I didn't play it as much is because playing it with friends was a pain in the ass. Because you had to port forward. They made a sequel a couple years ago as well too, Risk of Rain 2. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of it. I never played it.
Okay, so Risk of Rain 2 is a very different game, at least in terms of how the game actually plays. So Risk of Rain 2 is a roguelike third-person shooter developed by Hapu Games and published by Gearbox Publishing. It is a sequel to 2013's Risk of Rain, and it was released in early access for Microsoft's Windows, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One in 2019, before fully releasing in August 2020, and eventually came out to Stadia, and, Stadia's gone too, but...
R.I.P.
Very similar in terms of concept anyway, right? You play a survivor who is stranded on an alien planet. To survive, you navigate through various environments, killing monsters, looting chests, collecting items, collecting money to open up those chests. That boosts your offensive and defensive capabilities, and over time, as the game goes on, the game's difficulty increases. The biggest change here is that it was changed from a 2D side-scrolling game to a full-on third-person shooter, and it is a world of difference. I think just from that bit alone will be something that I think will maybe catch you and hook you a little bit better than the original Risk of Rain.
Yeah, that's super interesting to have two games that are technically sequels to each other behave so differently. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and just because, like, I don't know how far you got into the original Risk of Rain. I know you said you played it a bit, right? But, there's, those runs where we talk about when you have that kind of power fantasy?
Right.
You got that in Risk of Rain. I don't know if you ever experienced those kinds of runs there.
I don't believe so. I'm going to see exactly how long I played the first Risk of Rain for. It's going to be really funny.
Okay, let's take a look here then real quick.
Risk of Rain... 2.2 hours.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so unless you got very good in those 2 hours, I don't think you got to that point of having, like, a build kind of go off the rails and be kind of like a nut job. Like, you can get there, but you have to get really lucky and kind of know what the items are, right? I've got a couple other friends who are very addicted to the game right now. It's one of those games that kind of comes in, in cycles in my friend circles. So maybe we'll have some of them jump in for a session and, kind of really see how we enjoy the chaos of this game together.
Yeah, it's always kind of hit or miss with these games with me, but the last couple have been hits, so let's give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listeners, there will be a short break here. For us, it'll be about a week or two. For you guys, it'll be about 5 to 10 seconds. And we'll see how Jeff feels about Risk of Rain 2 after the break.
See that?
Okay, listeners, we are back. It's been a couple weeks. Jeff, what do you think of Risk of Rain 2?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was way better than the first one.
Nice,
I think the 3D lends itself to a more enjoyable experience than the 2D plane. I loved the music and the sound design. I think that was something that we talked about when we played the game together, that the music and the sounds, the sounds things make are really, really enjoyable. And the game itself is a lot of fun. And I think it's a lot more, I think it's a lot easier to see what's going on because of the 3D. And as such, it's a more enjoyable experience, I guess, because like, kind of what you're looking for, what's hitting you, number one, and kind of like what to look out for and how to plan your attack, right? Going through the levels. So I definitely think the switch to 3D is much better, at least for me. And I had fun with it. I had a lot of fun with the game. I'm happy we gave it a shot. I will say that it is more fun with friends. Like playing this game by yourself is like kind of like how I've always kind of felt roguelikes are, where it's just like you're Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill and then just coming back down when you die. But playing with people is definitely the way to play this game. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, in terms of like the gameplay, right? I guess I didn't really cover it in the first half, but so you get dropped onto a random like location environment, right? You go around killing monsters, finding chests full of relics and items and equipment. And that's your modifier, right? It's like we look at Dead Cells, right, where your modifier is your weapons, and then the stuff that makes it so like, oh, when you do like the death drop into the ground, you spill oil everywhere, right? Stuff like that, and that changes how you want to build around it, because then you can light things on fire, right? In this one, it's more about everything modifies your character's, I guess, overall stats, I guess you want to call it that, right? Because you can get stuff that helps you do more crit damage, or like higher, or more higher chance of crit, or things that create on hit effects, right? Like creating bleed that stacks, or poison, right? Every character has a modifier of some sort for their base stats, right? Even their own stats have like a multiplier, right? Like we play a little bit of like the main character, or I guess the first character, right? It's like the pilot looking guy, right? The commander,
right.
His secondary shot is a big old like hyper bullet, basically, right? That does like a multiplier of his base damage, and then of course you try to find stuff that either increases your base damage to make that hit harder, or to give yourself 100% crit, stuff like that. And then you find your way to the teleporter. You basically do a boss fight of some sort, and then kill that, stay in the play area of the teleporter, and then that sends you to the next level, and then you can end the run after like, I think it's like 7 stages, and then it loops after that like every 4, I believe. And yeah, like we had a decent session going on at one point, right? We even had my friend Jack come through, right? We had a solid run going on, and then we got slapped around by some the grandparent, I think they're called.
Yeah, we all had to stand in the fire.
Yeah,
whether we wanted to or not, they were putting us in the fire.
Yeah, so. And my stationary healing wasn't enough to heal us through it. Kind of just try to heal tank through it. So yeah, that was the end of our I guess our best run, if you want to call it that one.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. In terms of like the 3D gameplay, it is more like immersive, I guess, right? If you want to, because comparing it to the 2D side-scrolling type of the first game and then the remake of the first game, right? This one, yeah, you hear things from like left and right and behind you, and you're kind of like, your head's on a swivel at all times, and you're looking for enemies up in the air, down low, because the previous game, it was basically you couldn't really aim. You had to place yourself in a place you could actually hit the enemies, versus here where you can aim around, full 360 kind of thing, right? And then take out, annoying things that are sniping at you, like the big old skull things, right? The flaming skulls, or I think they're called like razor beaks, like the big birds that like turns like a big old spinning wheel of death. But yeah, in terms of gameplay, I think it's a much more accessible, I guess the term I want to look for, right? In terms of gameplay, or at least in this type of gameplay, especially when you're dealing with mobs on a screen and you're still moving around them basically. But yeah, like the music, good to hear that you enjoyed that. Like there's a rocking synth solo in one of them that I really, that I just kind of like get really into. And like, with this game, you said playing it by yourself, can feel like a little bit like Sisyphean, right? I understand that, especially with, we've talked about it before about the concept of roguelikes, right? That's kind of like the whole aspect of it, right? Even more like Hades is like a perfect example of it. He literally lives a like Sisyphean fate, basically, right?
Yes.
You see Sisyphus as well too in that game. In this one, I think the biggest thing that changes the experience for me in terms of like roguelikes for this game is the fact that you can. Obviously, there's a little bit of RNG and luck involved, right? But a lot of it still comes down to personal skill, right? Because you can have bad rolls at all times, but as long as you can move and aim and keep track of everything on the map, you can still have a deep run go no matter what. And then still get to that kind of, what's the term you used before? Like the power fantasy? Like the end game power fantasy?
Yeah, the power trip.
Yeah,
right.
you still get to that, absolutely. Especially once you picked up enough relics, even if they're bad relics, eventually they're just enough to stack basically, and then you become a walking ball of death by yourself.
Yeah, I did kind of like how, and especially in a lot of roguelikes, when you start off, and even in Risk of Rain 1, I always felt like this, where like you start off and you're basically like a newborn chicken egg, like you're a chick, just trying to fight giant space monsters. In this, it feels like you have a fighting chance, right? It feels like you can survive a little bit. And that's something that I always appreciate in roguelikes and roguelites, because like it feels like in the beginning you're always kind of like I said, you're like this super nubile, vulnerable creature that everything's gonna kill you in one hit, and your run's gonna die before it starts. But in this, like I said, you have a puncher's chance, and then it snowballs from there, right? It kind of feels like it snowballs, especially when you're playing by yourself, because all the gear is yours.
Yeah,
you don't have to share with anybody.
Yeah.
So like you do kind of tend to snowball pretty fast, but the game catches up. Don't worry.
Yeah, and I mentioned it before. I think they have this. I'm pretty sure they had the same mechanic in the first game, where the longer you dilly dally in an area, the more difficult the game gets, right?
Yep.
Because the difficulty scaling is always the timer's always ticking. You see it in the top right. This is like easy, medium, hard, so on and so forth. And then like you will die. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, and then it just starts like maniacally laughing at you. But yeah, like. It's exactly that. Like, I think this game doesn't have the same level of like random one hit BS. You know what I mean? Like there are still those things, right? Obviously, the wandering vagrant, the big old jellyfish, has that big old charging electric attack, right? I tell you to get behind cover.
Yeah.
But again, there's a mechanic to stop it, right? You get behind cover so you're not getting hit by it, or I always forget the names of the things. I just call them the bells, right? The big bells. Yeah, they shoot the spiked balls at you. Same thing, right? I told you when we first started playing is like just always be moving, and as long as you're like running, jumping, it just makes you a much harder target to hit in general. There's always some sort of counterplay available. You're not not like you're gonna get stuck in a corner. I mean, occasionally, sometimes the collision doesn't want to work with you, but for the most part, everything is kind of on you to stay alive, especially because the tools are all available to you right in the beginning. Is there any you play any of the characters? Because I know it's been we had a little bit of time playing solo versus playing with a group. So
yeah, so I tried the characters that I had available to me. So unfortunately, I only had the Commando, which is like the default unit, the Huntress, which is the other default character, and the Bandit, which is sort of the first character that you unlock just from playing through the game. So for me, I like the Bandit the best. I thought it was the most fun. I did try to play solo runs with all three of the classes I had available to me.
Okay.
And I got the furthest with the Bandit. Like the Huntress, I died like I think stage 3.
Yeah, Huntress was a change in play style. But I like the Huntress as well as actually one of my main characters that I play.
Right. I got to 4 with the Commando, and then I got like into stage 5 with the Bandit before I just got overwhelmed and died.
Yeah, okay, I get you.
So just because, again, like you said, the game gets progressively harder as you go. So I got stuck looking for like the teleporter on stage 4 with the bandit.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to it and I was barely able to clear it, like by the time I got to stage 5, it was at like supreme giga fuck you difficulty. And like I like it just, there's nothing I could do.
I get you. Yeah, I get you. There are times when it feels like I threw myself into the deep end when I thought my build was going well. You know what I mean? Like, because there's like the Shrine of the Mountain, I think it's called, where it basically it makes your teleporter fight much more challenging. And I'm like, I've got a pretty solid build going on. I could take a little bit of a chance here. Yeah, and then you get in there and you're just swarmed and you can't see anything on your screen aside from enemies. And you're like, well, there's my run, basically. Like, you kind of left alone to it. Well, here we go. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of Pride Before the Fall kind of moments here in this game for me because, especially when I was playing this game, when I got really hooked onto it the first time, I thought it was like hot shit. Like, I thought I knew exactly what the hell I was doing. Again, playing solo.
You're the roguelike expert.
Exactly.
So of course.
I'm the master. And then here's me getting slapped around at stage 3.
Yeah, you got fucked up probably, right?
Yeah, exactly. I got a little bit too big for my own britches, basically. The game has a very particular aesthetic, and I think it transferred very well it transformed very well from the first game, which has obviously that pixel aesthetic, right? To this one has kind of like a vaporwavy kind of feel to it, I feel like. I don't know how else to explain it. Right, yeah. Soft lines for a lot of the stuff, right? Very pretty, very very aesthetic, right? The pastel colors kind of thing going on, neon colors. I think feel-wise, I think this game does a very, very good job of kind of just being enjoyable to look at, right? Even if you're
and listen to.
Absolutely, yeah. The soundtrack for this game is absolutely fantastic, and I've found myself like putting it on Spotify and just kind of like vibing to it, like when I'm on a bike ride or something.
Yeah, I remember the first time I booted the game up, I was waiting for you to get on, and I'm just listening to the opening song, and I'm like, yo, okay.
It goes kind of hard, right? Yeah.
and then we actually get into the game, and there's nothing like the game music syncs up perfectly with the game.
Oh,
and I thought that was really awesome. That like it always kind of feels like the music isn't jarring you out of the fight; it's keeping you into the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It has this kind of like again kind of synth wavy. It feels like space but action, right? Because that's kind of what the whole game is. Giving props to the composer here is listed as Chris Crisodolo. Just nailed it with the soundtrack, and even more so with the I don't know if there were added tracks with the DLCs, but just thematically, it makes a lot of like all the tracks make sense, right? When we go to the space beyond time, right, to that Newt, the Newt altar shop and stuff like that. The end levels, right, like the hell level obviously feels more intense. It looks like hell, right, but it's just really, really red with the magma worms and shit.
Right. That was fun.
Just very. Yeah, the music choices are just very, very well done. It just doesn't take you out of the game, like at all. It always feels like everything's kind of timed perfectly, and then the game ticks up as soon as you get into like a swarm kind of thing, right? The music gets a little more intense, when the swarm's actually attacking you, versus the waves. When you're kind of in between waves.
Yeah, and the other thing that I appreciated is like usually foresty levels are like in the beginning, and then it goes to like a sand level, and then you go to hell. But in this, it doesn't matter. Like it'll surprise you. Like you could go to hell in the second level.
Yeah, right? Very, very seldom, but it does happen.
Well, you know what I'm saying. But like the typical tropes of easing your way into what would be considered more difficult areas aren't like that, because every level is generated to be kind of where it's slotted in. So like when we went to hell, like I imagine that there's like a more difficult level version of hell, but the level that we got was pretty manageable, right? What ended up killing us was like the foresty mushroomy level with all the parents, like the giant basically parents in this game are like giant fire monsters,
essentially
humans.
Kind of thing. Yeah, they look like giant plasma, like humanoid.
Yeah, plasma is probably the better way to describe them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what like was cool to me. It's like usually you save these. Usually there's tropes, right, that a lot of games tend to follow. where fire underground and fire is end game and final boss. It might just be me playing World of Warcraft,
Maybe.
but it felt refreshing to get dropped into hell and then go to like a
like an ice
mushroomy wonderland.
Yeah, after. Or like an ice level afterwards, and be like, okay, this should be easy, and then you get smacked around.
Right, and get bodied in ice rather than getting bodied in fire, right?
Yeah. Is there a particular enemy that you didn't like in this game? Like, for me, I have a particular hatred for, I forget what they're called, like the imps, I think they're called, like the red guys that slash at you and cause bleeding.
I mean, all of them.
Yeah, well.
Everything's trying to kill you, and it does a good job of it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's just the bosses really, really suck.
But in a good way, obviously, right?
Right. I think nothing felt unfair. It just felt like, after a while, it's just a lot of different mechanics happening at the same time, and the game naturally progressing and getting more difficult just ends up crescendoing into this just giant, like, screw you, you're gonna die sort of moment. But I don't think there was anything that I was like, man, like, I don't like, I want to delete you from the world kind of thing. Yeah. Everything was just kind of like, man, go away. I don't want to deal with you right now.
I think for me, personally, it's like the imps and the razor beaks, because those
suck.
Steel birds hurt so much, and like you'll see them sometimes like stage 3, stage 4, and it's like, man, I don't have any like shield generators yet, or any like the buckler, right? Anything to give me any sort of defense. So like one hit from them, if I'm not paying attention, is like a third of my health bar.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they ended one of my runs. So you know what? I'm gonna join you on that.
I also have a hatred of the Sentinels in Destiny 2, like the big, and they have something very similar to it in this game, right? Like the big sphere that like launches you into the air, kind of thing.
Yes.
I don't know what I forget again. I never. I always connect the creatures in this game to something else, but those Sentinels are also very annoying because they ruin the flow of a fight. Or say I'm playing the Engineer. I think I ran the Engineer during one of our sessions, right? The one that puts two turrets down?
That was mostly what you played.
Yeah. Because I wanted to be something kind of supporting to you, right? I was like, I only need like 3 or 4 items, and everything else is yours, basically. And we can talk a little about the sharing of items as well, too, in a minute. But like that, sometimes I'll be playing kind of like I'll feel a little cheeky, see if I can cheese a bunch of levels out, right? By playing the Engineer, getting all the defensive stuff, and just having my turrets do all the work, basically, right? And then, like the Sentinel thing knocks me into the air, or the imp starts stacking bleed on me and hurting me through my static healing kind of thing. And it's like, that's why I'm a note of those guys, because like, if I'm trying to be a little dumb or a little bit cheeky, like they won't let me have fun. Basically, that's basically what it is.
The nerve.
Yeah, how dare they? But yeah, like in terms of like when we were playing together in our multiplayer run, right? Because we did initially with you and me first, right? And then Jack hopped on. There was a lot of me giving you stuff early on, and you can kind of see like how effective the relics are, right? Especially early, if you can stack a couple of them really quickly.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about that kind of changing the dynamic of the game, where obviously single player you can be greedy, grab everything and anything, right? In the multiplayer, how did you feel about that one? Because I remember I kind of referenced it to playing with like a raid group and getting ninja'd out of some gear that I wanted.
Yeah, sorry. First off, sorry about that. So like when me and Lacan would play, I was still relatively new to the game, so I would just like try to walk around, and then I'd end up like stealing his items. Yeah,
like you walk in front of me after I've just opened a chest, and I just see my item just hit the ground and immediately go into your pocket, and I'm like, excuse me, Jeff.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that, but you benefit from it no matter what, right? Because you're a team trying to survive. So it always made sense. So like giving you the healing mushrooms, right? So when you're standing still, mushrooms would generate and heal you over time, right?
Yeah.
In a game where you're always moving, that might not be great, but for a character like the Engineer that has turrets that spawn and stay stationary, it's
and also
great, right?
Share any stat boost that I have, basically. That's why it's really good.
Yeah, exactly. So, sharing that with Lacan isn't like the end of the world, right? and then making sure, oh, you're playing like a damage dealing class. Here's a bunch of crit items. Hey, there's crit items over here, or hey, there's a, for me personally, having the blue coins, right? Those coins that allow you to buy stuff at that mysterious vendor, right?
Yeah.
It would be like, hey, there's blue coins over here. So teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yep.
So I think even if you're not sharing, you're still benefiting. Or I mean, even if you are sharing, you're still benefiting from those items.
Yeah, it's just that the power scaling, will ramp a little slower in comparison, right?
Of course.
But I do get that, like, especially even when I'm playing multiplayer, right? Because usually when you're playing solo, it's like, okay, like everything's for me. I get excited when I see a particular relic, right? Like, oh, cool, now I can see if I can stack a couple of these, right? Hopefully I get lucky. But when we're playing together, I'll see like, ooh, tri-tip daggers. Okay, I'll grab one for myself and I'm good. I'm basically good to go, right? And then I see more coming. I'm like, oh, here, this is all yours, fam. You know what I mean? Like start sharing the wealth here, basically. And get really excited when I see like one of the generators, right? You trade a couple of white items in for a different item, but one specifically that's good for your build. The build crafting in this game is obviously a little bit different. It's not like we're creating builds specifically. There are like artifacts in this game, kind of like what Halo does, where if you get a particular artifact, you can choose your relic that you get out of the chest, essentially. It'll bring you to like a menu. The game obviously will continue to play, but you have to go through the grid of items, basically. Which is, a different way to play, but it's also very, still fun. It's a different way to play, and you can kind of focus more on specific builds that way. But in terms of like playing it in the traditional vanilla way the game was developed and intended to play, I guess, if you want to call it that, you just want to be as flexible as possible, and hopefully you just kind of get a little bit lucky, and then if not, you just got to make do with what you got and try to choose what you can off the field. For usually equipment, it becomes a thing that you can kind of get a little bit controlling, because when you drop equipment, when you pick up equipment, you'll drop the previous piece you had before. You can continue on with a specific piece or not, in the moving forward in the next level. So there's a little bit of control there, but for the most part, again, the relics are completely randomized, and it's still up to you in terms of like gameplay and ability to be able to take advantage of or work around your character's deficits or their strengths. So there's that as well too. I wish we got to play a little bit more. Obviously, things have been very busy for both of us here the last couple of weeks. You had a family trip. I had a personal vacation lined up, and we just couldn't line up as much as possible to play some more. But there are more playable survivors, a lot more items and abilities that you can unlock for individual characters. Like each individual character will have a secondary ability available to them as well from their base setup. And again, the modifiers, which we had the option to, because I did unlock it already before, from when I first started playing this game and really got into it. So we had the available modifier for the game. So we could definitely, if you ever want to play more, we can absolutely get into more of that ourselves later down the line. But I'm always down to play this game. This game has kind of been in my rotation as of late again. Kind of nice to feel refreshed because I took a break from this game. And this game has some big DLC coming out soon too. I don't know if you recall, during the III Initiative video, they showed the Dead Cells prisoner is going to be showing up in this game soon. So looking forward to seeing how that one plays out, because there is a character called the Mercenary, which is also a sword user, I believe, which I've played before. But the prisoners, I'm assuming, is going to be kind of like similar-ish to that, but have their own particular playstyle and probably more relics, introduced into the game because of it.
Mm-hmm. Right, more stuff that comes from Dead Cells, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, the relic pool's already insanely deep for this game too, right? Like, you can see through the you have like a logbook in the main menu, right? You see how many items there are in the game, how many locations there are, and a nice little thing I guess I want to touch on before we wrap up here is the amount of lore this game has. I don't know did you go through any of the logbook stuff at all or not?
A little bit, yeah. It's pretty cool how much stuff is back there.
Yeah, so we get like kind of like journal entries from former explorers, right, of the ship that your characters all tend to I guess come from, right? All, at least all the humanoid characters anyway are. They have a lot of like kind of like lore exploring, like some of the items are like, oh, I feel safe around this bustling fungus, like it gives me a healing aura, something like that, right? Or like the there's like some items that are like the curse items, right? And they say like something feels off and I don't know why, but I can't stop thinking about this thing, right? So it has like a little bit of that kind of like backside story, I guess like background storytelling, right? Again, you kind of have to like look for it yourself, right? Because for the most part, the game just kind of drops you in. It's like, okay, just survive, right? At least if you look through some of that lore stuff, it gives you like more of a reason to play, right? To expand and explore what it is they're exploring in space and why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I like when games do that, when they don't shove the lore in your face, but if you want it, you can go get it. I thought that was that. I always like that stuff. I always appreciate that. Destiny does a good job of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Where like you can kind of get away with just playing the main game. You'll get a decent amount on your own just playing it, but if you really want to deep dive, it's there for you.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess we can start to wrap up here. Anything else you want to touch upon before we hop off here?
No, I thought it was fun. I just wish I had more time to dig into it, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I recommend it. And that's coming from me, somebody that isn't the biggest roguelike fan, but it's growing on me. I will tell you, like the whole concept is growing on me. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to just pick up and put down without having to like dedicate a whole lot of time to. It's nice to just be able to do a run. And the problem is though, like when you're out of time but your run is really good,
yeah,
so trying to navigate
that,
to
bail on it or something, or
yeah, exactly.
Try to wrap it up quickly. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I think that's kind of like one of my big things, is because I know that's one of our biggest breaks, I guess, in terms of games we do enjoy or types of game we enjoy, right? I think that there's such a wide breadth for it, and I know that I try to keep my roguelike recommendation spaced out, but I try to find ones that I think would probably click a little bit better. Like this one reminds me a bit of like Destiny in terms of gameplay, similar to kind of how like like set up, actually having a boss event and go on forward, stuff like that. Deep Rock Galactic kind of does that same feeling for me, where it kind of gets rid of a lot of that.
That's a good comparison for sure. Yeah,
get rid of like the extra. Just kind of just get to the core gameplay. You know what I mean? Instead of all the extra stuff, like it feels like just kill hordes and waves of enemies and kind of move from here to here. I mean, that's kind of what this game is as well too. But what I mean, like it's more just like, let me just drop into the action, play, boss, and then rinse and repeat. Kind of just keep the action parts of those kinds of games. Okay, cool. We'll wrap it up here. I know you gotta go fulfill your daddy duties, so
thank you.
I got you, fam. So listeners, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. A little bit of a shorter one here, but again, this game is more for just go ahead and get out there, play it yourselves. I really, really like this game. I hope more people continue to play this game, especially as more content keeps getting pumped out for this game as well. If you guys like this episode, share us with a friend, leave us a like, leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.
See you then.
To everybody who stays until the end of these episodes and listens to the out of context clips, thank you. And for people who have just found out about this, check out every other episode. There is a random out of context clip at the end of it.